Hey guys, it's Geek here, and welcome back to Ace Attorney, where we are in the final segment of this game. And I know this is later than I wanted it to, but life happened, and my apartment flooded, so that might be why you're hearing a bunch of fans in the background, is to dry out my apartment. But I really want to see the conclusion of this game, so I am continuing. So let's do this. If I can get the game in. Okay, here we go. Now then, before we proceed any further, I'm going to announce the results of the test we had performed earlier. Test? Yes, test on the bloody dagger that was found stuck in the pine tree. Oh yeah, that. Totally forgot about it. That's the weapon that Maya Fey used when she fought with the victim. So what are the results? Was it the victim's blood, or... Due to time constraints, a full test wasn't possible. However, there's one thing we can say with certainty. The blood that was on the dagger was not the victim's blood. That is all. Now then, let's restart this trial. So it wasn't Misty's blood on the dagger? And whose was it? Considering their familial relationship, if you are saying it's definitely not Misty's, you would have had to have done enough testing to prove that. That doesn't sound right. I'm sure both the defense and prosecution know this, but this trial is rapidly coming to a close. Both sides will need to show some firm evidence with their claims. I understand, Your Honor. From what I've heard, the witness is dangerously weak, physically speaking. So, let's finish this quickly. Agreed. Very well. Please bring in the last witness. Witness, please tell us your name and profession. Maya Fey. My profession is, I'm the assistant manager at Wright & Co. Law Offices. Maya. According to the magazine I have here, you're a spirit medium of the Quran channeling technique. I'm frightened. The Fae clan. I don't want any more to do with it. Oh, Maya. The pain the Fae bloodline causes must be unbearable. Very well. Now then, Miss Fae. When the event occurred, you were in the garden of the Inner Temple, and you witnessed the moment that Miss Elise Donham's murder. Is this correct? I didn't see any... Straighten up this instant, young lady. Huh? Pick your head up and speak clearly. There is always time for crying later. But Your mother was killed right in front of your eyes. There's nothing you can do to change that fact. But there's something you can do. You can finish this. You've been watching the whole thing, right? You've seen the witnesses come out, and you've seen us squeeze the truth out of them. Now it's your turn. Let's hear your testimony. On the night of the crime, what exactly did you see happen? Witness, if you please. Yes, Your Honor. I'm guessing they did tell her that Misty was in fact Misty. I was passing through the garden on the way to a spare prep room when it happened. Suddenly, someone struck me over the head. I stumbled and ended up against the stone lantern. Then I screamed, "Help me." Then something warm splashed over me. That's when I lost consciousness. So you were struck on the head. I suppose it must have been the staff. Maya, the person who hit you. It was Delilah Hawthorne, wasn't it? I'm sorry, Nick. I couldn't see. I don't know who it was. Maya, think hard. Sorry, Nick, but I really couldn't. Ha. Can't say it was an especially good night for young ladies to be walking around alone. It seems that it will be hard to determine the criminal through testimony alone. Very well then, Mr. Wright. Please begin your cross-examination. Maya, hang in there. She doesn't look well at all. She should probably still be at the hospital. But Godot wouldn't let her do that. Okay, let's go ahead and save, because that is what we need to do. I was passing through... Who else was on the inner temple side that night? Well, Sister Bikini, of course. But I remember her saying that Iris would be coming later as well. On the day after the incident, Edgeworth met Bikini at Hazakura Temple. That means she couldn't be the criminal. So then, did Iris actually come later like she said? Well, let me think. She seems confused, probably because she's so tired. No, I'm sure I didn't see her. She must have come while I was preparing for the training. Suddenly, someone struck me over the head. Who did it? Who hit you? I don't know. Well, I didn't see who it was. I was hit from behind. You didn't see the person? But after that, your attacker was in front of you. How could you not see who it was? Oh, but let me think for a sec. I'm sorry, I just can't remember. Maya's really having a hard time. What should I do? Just continue on. She said she didn't know before. Considering the conditions at the crime scene, it's not surprising she didn't see her attacker. Ha. So it looks like even you've got some compassion. Judging by the testimony thus far, the identity of the attacker was most likely the spirit that was channeled by Elise Donham, Delilah Hawthorne. Very well. Please continue with your testimony. What happened after you struck on the head? I stumbled and ended up against the stone lantern. What happened afterwards? My attacker was in front of me, blocking my escape, I think. You think? After getting hit like that, I was in a state of panic. There were only two things rolling around in my head at that time. Well, now, this is beginning to get interesting. So what were the two things rolling around in your head? My name is Maya Fey. 1 + 1 = 2. You see, for some crazy reason, I was afraid I was going to lose my memory. I know it's odd considering my life was in danger, but that's how it was. That's not odd at all. Your actions are understandable, given the circumstances. So, what did you do then? I think I screamed, "Help me." You think you screamed? But you're not sure? Listen, I was a complete wreck. It was dark and I couldn't see my attacker. Was it a man, a woman, an adult, a child? I had no idea. I was scared out of my wits. Believe me, my dear, I'm certain I would have soiled my robes. I thought this person might attack me, so I... Anyway, I'm pretty sure I screamed. I thought that was my last hope. Wow, sounds like poor little Maya really was out of her mind. But I wonder what she meant by last hope. What do? Do I press her for more details? Yeah, that did sound weird. We'll just ask her specifically. Wait a minute, Maya. What's this my last hope stuff? What? What do you mean by your last hope? No. That's what you said. You said my last hope. Huh? What? I said what? Look, you were facing an attacker that you couldn't see and you screamed, right? You screamed, "Help me." Yeah. But you testified that you screamed that because you thought it was your last hope. Oh, well, you know, that's like, what do you call it when that happens? Maya's not doing so well up there. Oh, yeah, Oh, that's right. I remember now. I was facing my attacker, but that's not who I was screaming at. What did you just say? Yeah, that's right. It was the person behind my attacker that I was yelling at. That's who I was screaming to for help. Yeah. What is it now? I messed up. I didn't mean to let that slip out. Huh? Witness, are you absolutely sure of what you're saying? Behind the attacker, there was another person? I am. Well, I meant to keep that part a secret. What have I done? Ha. It takes a ton of pressure to make a diamond. That's what I always say. Ton of pressure? You're in a court of law here. You can't make things up or try to hide things in this chamber. Witness, the information you just presented is vital to the case. I want you to add it to your testimony. I could see a man behind my attacker by the light of the stone lantern, but I thought we said it was not there. Like it was out. A man. Who was this man? Well, you see, I couldn't see. You couldn't see. She's used this excuse twice now. Well, you know, lantern light isn't very bright. Lantern light, did you say? There's a great big stone lantern in the garden. They always light it when the acolyte is there for training. It couldn't have been lit. That's was a whole point of contention. Hey, you know what they say, under the lantern, darkness reigns. So I could see the person that was further away, but not my attacker, who was closer. Plus, there weren't any other light sources in the garden at the time. Then something warm. Wait. Please tell me I have something about the lantern. Yes, here we go. So there was a man standing behind your attacker? Yeah. That man, he's the killer. He stabbed her from behind. He's the one who killed Elise Donham, otherwise known as Misty Fey, your mother. The killer? Maya, you know who killed your mother, don't you? What is the meaning of this, Mr. Wright? To be frank, Your Honor, I think she is in shock and quite confused. That's why she hasn't noticed the huge problem with her testimony. Huh? What do you mean? What problem? Maya, on the night of the crime, that stone lantern was out of commission. Huh? What? It's true. There was no light anywhere in the garden that night. No. Order in the court. Mr. Godot, explain this. Add the pureness of milk to the perfect clear darkness of coffee, sir. That is the state of the witness's mind right now. A cup of café au lait. I don't think I pronounced that correctly at all. Café au lait? Is that even legal? I guess it is. Mr. Tright's words are the milk and you are the spoon. Your Honor. I'm a spoon. I'm no spoony bard, I'll have you know. You must have noticed it too, Trite. This witness' mental state is highly unstable right now. It's not hard to understand why she would make a little mistake like that. Sorry, but that's not going to cut it. What did you say? If there truly was no light in the garden, then there's a fatal contradiction in the witness's last bit of testimony. Nick? May I? Recall the witness's statement about her attacker. She said that she didn't know if it was a man or a woman, an adult or a child. And yet, the witness could describe a person that was standing behind her attacker, and she quite clearly described him as a man. Ah. In other words, that would have to mean that Maya actually saw our mystery person, despite it being so dark that she couldn't see the face of her own attacker. No. Order. What in the world does this all mean, Mr. Wright? Are you saying Miss Fey saw the real killer under pitch black conditions? Trite, do you have any idea what you're proposing? How could she have seen in the dark? There was no light source at the scene. There are some things that you can only see in the dark, Mr. Godot. Maya, you did see who the killer was in the dark, and now you're trying to cover for him. Cover? For the man that killed her mother? There's only one conclusion I can draw from this. You know who this man is. Please, Nick. I don't know anything. Please, I'm begging you. Ha. You talk a good game, Trite. Let's see if you can walk the walk. It was pitch black, so what could the witness see? I'm calling your bluff. No, Nick, don't. Please, stop. Maya's dead set on protecting this guy, the man who murdered Maya's long-lost mother. But can't let him get away with it. I'm a lawyer, officer of the court. I'm here to find the truth. Alright, Mr. Wright, time to show us what you've got. Who was this person that you say Miss Faye saw in the darkness? Okay, it has to be a man. The only person that we did not ever see during those first moments when the bridge was out of commission was Godot. But no one knew where he was, and him being on that side of the cliff would mean he was missing. Like, of all of them, like, Miles got called in, so he definitely wasn't it. We saw Larry on the other side of the bridge after we knew that it was broken. Gumshoe also was around and investigated. The only man we have nothing on is Godot. Because it was pitch black, Miss Faye was able to recognize the killer easily. I'm sure the court would like to see for itself how this is possible, yes? What? But how do you propose to show us something like that? It's easy. We just need to recreate the conditions of that night. Conditions? Your Honor, the defense officially requests that all the lights in this courtroom be turned off. Well, but it can't be. Ha. Oh my gosh, so it does glow in the dark. That was a nice bit of deduction, trite. Well, everyone, this is the man Maya saw on the night of the murder. Order, order, order! Prosecutor Godot, what is the meaning of this? Surely you must be shocked to hear yourself accused of such a thing. Why aren't you denying it? Huh. Your Honor, you're asking the wrong person. What do you mean by that? If you got a question, ask the witness. That's one of my rules. Well, Maya, how about it? What you saw that night? Was it 3 glowing red lights? Well, witness, answer the question. You're wrong. I never saw that. Maya, I thought the person that stabbed my mother was a man, for a totally different reason. What? Maya, come on now. Witness, Mr. Wright, what the? Stop your chattering, Your Honor. Chattering? If it's worth asking, ask the witness. That's one of my rules. All right. Well then, let's continue with the testimony. Please tell us how you knew the killer was a man. Yes, Your Honor. I didn't realize it until after I woke up, but... Why are you lying, Maya? Come on. When I came to, I was just lying there on the training hall floor. By the time I got back to the garden, the place had totally changed. The torches were lit and the body was gone, and all of the snow around the stone lantern had been carefully cleaned up too. Since the person did all that work alone, I just assumed it was a man. So it was after the crime took place that the witness came to think the killer was a man. Yes, that's right. I'm sorry, Your Honor, No need to apologize. It is as Mr. Godot said, you're utterly exhausted. It's only natural that you would be a little confused. Also, if you consider the situation you described, it doesn't seem too much of a stretch to assume the culprit was a man. Sexism. Tisk. Mr. Wright, proceed with your cross-examination. What is going on here? I mean, it doesn't really explain why Godot would have been the killer unless to get back at Misty for hurting Mia and Maya. Because I'm still under the assumption that Godot was Mia's partner in the last case, as that is the only thing that makes sense to me, but we'll just have to see. When it came to, I was lying on the floor. So you lost consciousness when you were in the garden, is that right? Yes, I think it happened when the victim was stabbed. So then the person that carried you into the inner temple could only have been the killer. That's what I think too. So the killer carried Maya into the inner temple. By the time I got back to the garden, the place had totally changed. Naturally, the killer must have done it, right? Yes, I think so. But why would the killer tamper with the crime scene like that? There must have been something that the killer desperately wanted to hide. I don't know. Looks like she doesn't have enough confidence. I think I need to gather some more information before I ask her again. The torches were lit and the body was gone. The torches were lit? Yes, that's how I noticed the whole scene had changed. Going to say it was the killer who lit the torches. I mean, who else could it be? The killer probably lit them since it's impossible to do any cover-up work in the dark. However, if that's true, there's one thing that still bothers me. Why did the killer go to the effort of moving the body? That's true. Hard to see how that would be any advantage to the killer. The only one who would gain anything from that would be the only person that was at the inner temple, Maya. Very well. Let me hear some more about the condition of the crime scene. And all the snow around the stone lantern had been carefully cleaned up. 2. You're saying the killer cleaned up the snow? It did look really odd. The snow was removed in an unnatural-looking rectangular shape around the lantern. There were a lot of shovels around the inner temple, but they're all really heavy, way too heavy for me to use. An odd fellow indeed, this killer. Why on earth would anyone want to take snow away? Well, there's one thing I can think of. Didn't you say a lot of the victim's blood sprayed into the snow? Yeah. The area I collapsed in ended up being splattered. In other words, the killer's purpose was to hide the bloody snow. I think that's the most reasonable explanation. Perhaps. However, there's something that's bothering me. If the killer just wanted to hide the snow with blood on it, there was no need to remove that amount. That's true. He could have scooped up just the snow that was stained with blood. It looks like there are some mysteries behind this issue, but I think this will help explain them. Since the person did all that work alone, I just assumed it was a man. Why are you assuming they did it alone? So you're saying that you never saw the killer, right? Yes. But earlier you very clearly stated that you saw a man behind your attacker. Nick, I'm sorry. The killer certainly went through a lot of trouble, moving the body by pendulum, manipulating the crime scene. But for what purpose? Why do all of that? Maybe Maya knows more than she's letting on. Alright. Let me look through the evidence. The article, So we know that the only reason why the body would have been moved would have been for Maya's doing. Cracks, we got the crime scene photo. Blood doesn't match the victim's. Then whose blood is it? Because we know not the killer was there, but also Pearl was over there, so they would have somehow had to have missed Pearl. This doesn't make sense. By the time I got back, it totally changed. The torches were lit and the body was gone. Snow cleaned up. Let's look at some photos. Here are the lights out bell. Here's a picture. Don't tell anyone. No, that's the courtyard where she was murdered. My thing is, if all the blood is on the other side, there's no reason for it to have actually done that. The victim's staff was actually the murder weapon. Nothing interesting there. Nothing really to look at here. Does Maya not know that Pearl was there? I mean, she shouldn't have known, should she? All the snow had been cleared up. Since the person did all that work alone. I'm gonna save it again. Why is she assuming that? So you're saying that you never saw the killer, right? Yes, but earlier clearly stated... Pearl was over there. Like, they weren't alone. I don't know why she's... It did look odd. Unnatural rectangular shape. A lot of shovels. But there was a broom. Hide the bloody snow. I can think that's the most reasonable explanation. Perhaps. However, there's something that's bothering me. If the killer just wanted to hide the snow with blood on it, there was no need to remove that amount. That's true. Mysteries behind this issue. Torches were gone. I mean, unless the torches were used to melt the snow. But I don't think that's possible. Is there no picture of that section? Okay, I guess there is no picture of that crime scene. It's weird though. Torches were lit, body was gone. Just lying on the training hall floor. Like, the thing is, this all had to have happened after the bridge burnt out, which means that only Maya, we're assuming Godot, and Pearl were on the other side with Elise. So it has to be something with those 4 people. And I guess technically 5 people because Delilah was there, but that doesn't make sense. Left lying there. Torches were lit. The body was gone. The snow had been cleaned up too. Like there was more than one person over there. Is there a way to be like, oops, I did not mean to do that. Is there a way to say like, the killer was not the only one over there unless we're just going to ignore the fact that Pearl was also over there? Has a sword. Why would they do that? I know Maya knows more. I'm just confused as to how I'm supposed to use the evidence. KM2 is lying in the training hall. Wait, if she was in the training hall, shouldn't she have also seen this? Yeah, she should have seen that poster. I'm gonna try. Nope. Those torches were lit, the body was gone. Like the thing is, she should have also have noticed the scroll. Why did she not notice it? Let me question her a bit more on this. So you lost unconsciousness? Yes, I think when the victim was stabbed in her temple, it could have only been the killer. That's what I think too. The killer carried Maya into the inner temple. By the time I got back to the garden, the place had totally changed. Since the... Is it... I mean, I know Maya is saying that. I mean, I have proof that she wasn't the only one there. So should I do the other? I'm just going through all this evidence. Nope. This is so weird. I actually have my lantern. Wait. In a previous section, we realized that Godot is blind. It has to... Godot can't see. Okay, this probably wasn't the statement. Only someone who doesn't know how much blood there was would need to remove that much, right? Because the person... yeah, the victim's blood. Yeah. Hide the bloody snow. Okay, yeah, this means that... yeah. Present the stone, because we like, hey, he can't see any of this. Okay, apparently. Okay, this has to be it, right? I'm just doing the wrong statements. Did you? Yes. I felt like the killer was hiding the evidence for my sake. Everyone knew that I was the only one at the inner temple that night. Sister Bikini had come back and looked at the garden. She may have thought you had done it. No, she definitely would have thought that so. And you're saying that's why the killer cleaned up the crime scene to make it look like nothing had happened? Yes, I'm sure of it. Well, that's certainly an important piece of information. I want you to add that to your testimony. Yes, Your Honor. Okay. Maybe I do it now? Because if they went through all the trouble of cleaning up the snow, they should have cleaned up the lantern. The body of Elise Stilnum was carried all the way to Hazakura Temple's courtyard. Then at the garden, the real scene of the crime. The snow that we suspect was covered in blood was scooped up and removed. It's reasonable to believe that all this was done in an attempt to hide the true crime scene. However, there's still one matter that seems somewhat odd. Oh? And what would that be? You must have figured it out by now, Mr. Godot. The message written in blood on the lantern. It was written very clearly on the white stone lantern. Maya. Ah. If the killer was so motivated to protect Maya from suspicion, then why didn't they wipe the writing off the lantern? You're right. Order, order. But, Mr. Wright, isn't it a fact that the killer was trying to cover up the crime scene? Indeed, but it doesn't make much sense to remove the body or remove the bloody snow, then not wipe the most incriminating thing of all, the bloody writing. But if that's the case, do you have an explanation for the killer's mysterious behavior? Why would this killer move the body or remove all that snow, but then leave the bloody writing on the lantern? Well, assuming it's you, Godot, you couldn't see it. I don't know what the killer's plan was, but the fact that the killer left the writing on the lantern, there must be a reason for it. Well then, Mr. Wright, let's hear your opinion. Why did the killer leave the message written in blood on the lantern? Godot couldn't see it. Prosecutor Godot, earlier in this trial, you gave me some advice. Once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. Maybe you're not as dumb as I thought. The real killer wanted to disguise the fact that a crime had occurred there. If that's the case, they wouldn't have left the bloody writing on the stone lantern on purpose. Therefore, it must have mean they didn't notice it. But that doesn't make any sense. The torches were all lit and everything. There's no way any normal person would miss something as glaring as that. You're right. There's no way any normal person would. What are you trying to say, Mr. Wright? There's only one person involved in this incident who could have missed seeing this bloody writing altogether. And who would that be? Who is this person that who could have failed to notice the writing? Godot. Mr. Godot, this is what you said yesterday. My eyesight is pretty messed up. Even with these huge goggles on my head, I still can't see everything. You can't see everything. Is that correct, Mr. Godot? This lantern was submitted as evidence today. I would like the court to think back to the moment it was first presented. This lantern. There's something written on it. Why? It's written in blood. Nonsense. This lantern, it's as clean as a whistle. Mr. Godot, just admit it. There are certain colors you can't see, correct? You can't see red on a white background, can you? That's right. We went through this once before, during the poisoning case at Tresbian. This is the apron the delightful Miss Bird was wearing at the time, and somehow spilled coffee on it. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that. There's something still bothering me, Mr. Godot. Why have you not explained the blood stain to the court? Blood stain? What blood stain would that be? Don't play games, prosecutor. The blood color stain that's smeared all over the apron. That's ridiculous. No one told me anything about a blood stain. I totally forgot about that. You could see the coffee on the white apron, but you couldn't see the ketchup because it was red. It's strange. In a black and white photo, those letters would have appeared black to me. I wonder, why am I the only one that can't see them? So then, Mr. Godot, are you admitting it? Are you admitting that you can't see the red writing on the lantern? No, I'm not admitting anything. Hey, Gramps, didn't you know? That's the reason why I don't drink red tea. That makes no sense. I wasn't sure about it until now, but I just can't believe it. The prosecutor Godot isn't the murderer? But there's no going back now. I finally figured out the truth. Mr. Godot, the defense at this current time formally accuses you. You are the murderer of Miss Elise Dunham, also known as Miss Misty Fay. It's hard to believe this may be the truth. However, once again, Mr. Wright has brought up a disquieting fact about you. Just make sure you don't fill out the incident in red ink, Gramps. Come on, how does a little graffiti make me into the killer? Besides, it's not like my name that's written there. I'm certain that the killer wasn't able to see the color red. This is rich. Do go on, Trite. The answer is right there at the crime scene. In the snow. The snow? How so? Well, for example, why did the killer move all that snow, Your Honor? You said it yourself. If you wanted to hide the bloody snow, why not take it out of just that area? Yes, why didn't he take it out of just about that area? Could it be? Yes, the killer couldn't see the red blood that seeped into the snow, and so he had to remove all of the snow. He couldn't be sure where the blood had landed, so he had to remove the whole area. I am butchering these words and lines. Isn't it more likely the killer couldn't see the blood because it was dark? The lanterns were turned on. Not a chance. The torches were all lit. He would have been able to see just fine. It seems that once again, this trial has taken an unexpected turn, to say the least. Can you explain this, Mr. Godot? Is Maya about to try and protect him? But wait, just a minute. Maya? What is it, witness? Mr. Godot isn't the killer. After all, he didn't even come to the inner temple until 2 days after the murder took place. He didn't show up until after that old bridge got fixed up, but no one could find him. So, no one could find him until the bridge was fixed, which means he couldn't show up on the other side either, because he was missing. Come on, girl. Maya? You can't testify to something like that. Why? What do you mean? May not look. After the murder happened, you didn't even exist. She didn't. I'm afraid I don't follow. Are you senile, old man? We established this just a little while ago. After the murder, this witness was unconscious for a long time. Because she was channeling Delilah Hawthorne. Oh, that's right. But please, Your Honor, let me add to my testimony. Nick, please listen to me. Maya, do you plan to cover for Godot no matter what the cost? If that's the case, then I've got no choice. Your Honor, let's hear her testimony. If it means we're going to hear the whole truth, I say we should not silence her. Ha, nicely done, Trite. Very well, let's hear the witness's testimony. Please tell us what happened at the Inner Temple after the murder. Yes, sir. After I woke up, I began channeling. My spirit left me, as it were. But little Pearlie was there at the Inner Temple, too. So you admit it. I mean, I guess she's technically saying that Pearl couldn't have done it, but that was my point the entire time. Pearlie was also stuck on the Inner Temple side that night. How do you know that? The next morning, she looked around but couldn't find anyone. The next day, when the bridge was finally fixed, she was in the spare prep room. That's when Mr. Godot arrived at the Inner Temple for the first time. He found Pearlie first and cheered her right up. Why would Pearl care about him? Who is this Pearlie? That's my little cousin, Pearl Faye. So when did you hear about this? Oh, just a while ago, when I was in the medical office. I'm terribly sorry, but what you heard from someone else is simply not admissible as testimony. What? Come on. Pearlie would never tell a lie. She's a way more honest person than I'll ever be. So you're admitting that you're lying. Real smart, Maya. You always say the best thing. You always know the best things to say when you're under oath. Ha. The prosecution has no objection. We believe the witness. Mr. Godot, let's just move on to the cross-examination, if the defense has no objections. This is highly unusual, but... Well, Mr. Wright? Let's just get this cross-examination started. Pearl... Okay, let's do this. Pearl was also there. What do you have to say to that? So where did you think Pearl slept that night? In the spare prep room next to the training hall, I guess. There's a rule that you can't enter the training hall during an acolyte's training. But even so, why did she go to the Inner Temple in the first place? Seems that Pearls became very worried about Maya. She knew that the spiritual training I was about to undergo was very intense. Pearls was supposed to channel Delilah Hawthorne, but she couldn't do it. That's why she headed to the Inner Temple. However, Delilah Hawthorne was already there, possessing the body of Elise Donham. The next morning, she looked around, but couldn't find anyone. She searched the entire Inner Temple side, end to end. Well, you see, Pearlie gets pretty scared when she's alone, and there weren't that many places to look. She says that she even went back and forth several times. The inner temple site has two structures, the training hall and the spare prep room. And there's also a storage shack, I think. That's about it. There was a storage stack too? Pearls was looking for other people, right? Would she have really examined a storage shack all that carefully? Well, if it was me, that would have been the first place I would investigate. No one's going to look in a storage shack, Maya. So that means it's possible that someone may have been hiding in the storage shack. The next day, when the bridge was finally fixed, she was in the spare prep room. Pearls didn't hear the sound of them working on the bridge. What do you mean? I was just wondering why she would stay in the prep room. If it was me, I'd at least go out and wait at the foot of the bridge. Oh, well, Pearlie said she was sleeping at the time. She said she was so scared during the night that she couldn't sleep well and woke up a bunch of times. Poor little girl. All alone like that. Well, we know that she had at least one friend in the sacred cavern, Delilah Hawthorne, who was busy battling with the trick lock. She couldn't let anyone see her, so she wouldn't have shown herself to Pearls. What happened after the bridge was finally fixed? That's when Mr. Godot arrived at the Inner Temple for the first time. So it was your first time at the Inner Temple side, Mr. Godot? That's funny. Am I imagining things, or did the defense ask me a question? Mr. Wright, please say your questions for the witness. What you heard from someone else is simply not admissible as testimony. Those are your words, Your Honor. Touché, Mr. Wright. Oh well. What do you have to say, Mr. Godot? Hot nights and even hotter coffee. That's what I always say. If it hadn't been for this case, I never would have visited there. A freezing cold temple in the mountains? I think I'll pass. So we hadn't ever visited Hasakura Temple or the Inner Temple, huh? Ha. You want to say something, Trite? In any case, I have to find a crack in Godot's armor. While I cross-examine Maya, that is. Very well, please go on with your testimony. After fixing the bridge, the policeman came over to the Inner Temple side, right? Yes. Then Mr. Godot... He found Pearlie first and cheered her right up. He cheered her up? That's what Pearlie said. She said he was a very nice older gentleman. Thanks for looking after my cousin, Mr. Godot. And here I was thinking you were nothing more than a coffee addict. Ha. Cut it out. You're making me blush. This guy is really beginning to get on my nerves, in more ways than one. The truth is there aren't many places to look on the Inner Temple side. The policemen were all busy going over the garden with the fine-tooth combs. How did you know that? You've never been there before. So I decided to carry out an investigation in my own way, Godot style. I'm the same way. I like to hand down verdicts in my own way, judge style. Maybe I should ask some questions, Phoenix style. I want to first ask about his investigation. You said that you conducted an investigation of your own. Did you find anything? It looks like my investigation went as well as yours, Trite. After all, I didn't miss the bloody writing on the lantern. Well, I didn't miss it, so speak for yourself, Goggles. The only odd thing I discovered was the beauty in the training hall. Beauty? Misty Faye, naturally. Clad in her stunning Japanese garb, surrounded by the hue of aroma of Western tastes. Western tastes? Could he find a stranger way to describe gravy? From there you headed to the prep room. Wait, how did he know it was a picture of Misty? Wait a second. What did Godot say just now? I think I just found his proverbial weak spot. There's only one thing of importance here. Where was Godot when the murder was taking place? He must have already been at the Inner Temple when it happened. Otherwise, he couldn't have killed Elise Donham. Pearlie was also stuck on the Inner Temple side that night. I'm gonna ask about cheer her up. 'cause that just sounds super suspicious. Okay, there's only like... Also, there's only one way he would have known about the picture. So you cheered Pearls up? When I found that little girl, the first thing she asked about was her cousin, Maya Fey. Really? The bridge had burned down and she was huddled up in that tiny shack with no heat. Even though she must have had a truly terrifying night out there, she asked about you before she said a thing about herself. Pearly? I noticed that you weren't anywhere on the inner temple side, but I couldn't find it in me to tell her that. So I gave her my last cup. Why are we feeding a 10-year-old coffee? With milk and sugar to hide the bitterness of the harsh truth. Oh, what a sweet story. He had the thermos of coffee? Why doesn't that surprise me? Only one thing of importance here. Where was Godot when the murder was taking place? The next morning, she was found in the spare. Can I present this showing that he would have had to have seen this first? Like, the only thing that makes sense is if he were... The only way he would have been able to know this was Misty was if he'd been there before. Mr. Godot, the first time you crossed Dusky Bridge and went into the inner temple was long before the murder took place. Why do you say that? Because he just made one fatal slip-up. The hanging scroll in the training hall. Hanging scroll. But Mr. Godot is right. The scroll shows a picture of my mother. Maya, I know you know who it is, but there's something you didn't know. By the time the bridge had been repaired, 2 days after the murder, the hanging scroll in the training hall looked like this. What a wonderful, delicious smell. The morning after the crime, someone covered it with gravy. Gravy? Why gravy, Nick? Because gravy was much more than a condiment to the culprit. Well, Mr. Godot, if you really hadn't seen the hanging scroll until after the murder, you wouldn't have had any way of knowing that it was Misty Fey. Wait a minute, Nick. Yes? Take another look at the hanging scroll. Look, at the top. There's a crest there. Ah, that. It's the mark of the master, correct? Exactly. So if you know the meaning of the mark, then you could guess it was a picture of Misty Fey on there. True, but Mr. Godot scribed what was underneath like this. Clad in her stunning Japanese garb, surrounded by the hue and aroma of Western tastes. Oh. Yes, it's possible that he knew what the crest meant. However, he couldn't have known that she was wearing Japanese clothing. Mr. Godot, on the day of the murder, you were hiding at the inner temple long before the crime took place. Can I ask you just one little thing, Trite? What is it? This whole theory of yours, it all rests on a certain assumption. That I knew beforehand that a crime was going to be committed. That's right. Otherwise, there's no reason for him to sneak onto the crime scene. Of course Mr. Godot knew about the plan. Huh? What did you say? Is it really possible that another person knew of that plan? Well, this was open before. This crime was actually planned over a year ago. Morgan Fey authored the plan for her daughter's future, and these instructions were hidden somewhere in Fey Manor for a year. However, by the time Little Pearls found these instructions, they had already been unsealed. Unsealed? Yes, the killer had already read these instructions long before Pearls ever found them. That's how he knew the crime was to take place at the Inner Temple. And you still insist this crafty killer is me. You bet I do. But you just said that the instructions were hidden. That's right. Mr. Godot couldn't have known where the instructions were hidden. If he really wanted to know, he had one great chance to find out. Yes? And when was that? During a visit. A visit? Morgan Fay told her daughter, Pearl, about where the instructions were hidden. During one of her visits to the detention center. That would be the only time for someone to have learned where they were hidden. Eavesdropping on a visit at the detention center. Yes, it could be arranged if you were someone with easy access in and out of there. Like, for example, a prosecutor such as Mr. Godot. He getting mad. Order. Mr. Godot, you're under fire again. This murder could not have been carried out without prior knowledge. And you are the only one that could have acquired this information before the murder. How long is he going to hold on? Humans are afraid of the dark, and yet, at the same time, we're fascinated and bewitched by it. Maybe that's why humans drink the darkness that is coffee. Really? Sorry for always asking, but what does that mean? I mean, there's a reason for everything. According to your theory, the killer in this case eavesdropped on a conversation during a jail visit where he learned of a hidden plan for a crime. After discovering the plans, he hid in the Inner Temple and waited for the crime to occur. Then he ultimately took a person's life. And he did all of that just to protect this witness. That's right. If you're accusing me of this crime, I have to ask you, why would I do this? The girl is nothing but a stranger to me. You got no reason to go through that kind of trouble to protect her. I am what you see. I am certainly not the type to rescue the damsel in distress. The killer's behavior is certainly extreme, for a lack of a better word. Even considering that the killer wanted to protect this witness's life, his behavior is still a little too unnatural. However, you had a good reason, didn't you, Mr. Godot? An unshakable reason that forced you to protect this witness at all costs. I knew it. You figured it out, haven't you, Nick? I figured this out. Last case, actually. Maya. I guess you were doing your best to cover for Godot. For the same reason, huh? Okay, Trite. I'm all ears. Let's hear it. It's very simple. Maya Fey is a lot more than just a stranger to you. What's this? There's one person who lies at the very center of this whole story. One person that ties you and Maya Fey together inextricably. And that will be Mia. There is a very good reason why Maya's Fey life is so precious to you. After all, she is Mia Fey's only sister. Mia Fey? You once worked alongside her. That was when you were a defense attorney. Wait a second here. Mr. Godot is a defense attorney? With your Honor's piercing intellect, you must have figured it out by now. The real name of this man who calls himself Godot. His real name is Diego Armando. Isn't that right? The last time someone called me by that name was over 6 years ago. Diego Armando. The name rings a bell. It should, Your Honor. All of this is related to a single case. A case in which a convict named Terry Flaws killed himself. Mia Fey's first time in court, the tragic outcome left a deep wound in her heart. She knew that behind it all was a heartless, scheming demoness in disguise. But in the end, Mia couldn't tear off that disguise. However, there was one man who reached out to help her. Diego Armando, a senior defense attorney at the office where Mia worked. It's my fault. It's all my fault that Mr. Flaws killed himself. Mia, you can't cry yet. The only time a lawyer can cry is when it's all over. I was moved by her, the way she put all her faith in her clients, that pure, sweet heart of hers. That's why I could never forgive Delilah Hawthorne. Mia and I thoroughly investigated that fake kidnapping incident. Then one fateful day, Delilah wanted to meet with me. It had been 6 months since the trial. We met in the courthouse cafeteria. He's the person that got injured there. Ah, I just remembered. 6 years ago, right here in this courthouse, you were poisoned. Even I didn't see it coming. Delilah Hawthorne slipped some poison into my coffee. Some newspaper at the time called it a murder, but very little information about the case was released to the press. But you weren't dead at all. No official reports ever actually called it a murder. I was just a deep, deep coma. I see. My body shut down and my life became nothing but a long, deep sleep. That woman's poison did a real number on my nervous system. I lost my sight, and all of my hair turned white due to the damage it caused. That's terrible. Apparently, it was a miracle that I ever regained consciousness. 5 years had passed since I drank that poisoned brew. Then one morning, my eyes flew open from the smell of a doctor's cup of coffee. 5 years? You were asleep for 5 years? And the worst possible news was waiting for me. Mia Fey was dead. From the very moment I opened my eyes, I had already lost everything I thought I had. The woman I loved had been murdered, and the woman I loathed had been sentenced to death. The woman you loathe, the woman who had spiked my scalding hot coffee, Delilah Hawthorne. Ha. Good old Mia. She didn't let me down. She got her revenge before she checked out. In the end, there wasn't anyone waiting for me when I woke up. That's so sad. For someone like me, for someone who has slept away their best days, there were only 2 reasons left to live. It was for those 2 reasons that I decided to become a prosecutor. If I may ask, what were your 2 reasons to live? The first was you, Trite. Huh? Me? If I hadn't drunk that stupid poison, Mia Fey never would have died, much less the way she did. You were the only one who was there to protect her, but you let her die. It was all your fault. It wasn't like that. I wanted to see for myself what kind of a man you really were. So that's why you became a prosecutor. My other reason for living, she goes by the name of Maya Fey. Huh? Me? You were the only way I could make up for the sin of not saving Mia. 1 year ago, when the Cron Village incident was resolved, it was obvious that Morgan Fey was planning something. Whatever her evil plan was, I was determined to stop it. My role as a prosecutor put me in the perfect position to do something about her. That's how you overheard Pearl's visit with Morgan at the detention center. I knew the time was drawing near. Since I knew the plan, I thought I could foil it. My goal was to outwit the plan. I thought if I could do that, I could keep that girl from being caught up in it. That makes sense. If Pearls had known the actual purpose of the plan was to kill Maya, she never would have helped out. Finally, the day of the plan was drawing near. I contacted both of my accomplices. Iris of Hazakura Temple and Misty Fey. I especially needed the help of Iris. She was to take the fall in my backup plan in case we couldn't control Pearl Faye. But, how did you contact my mother? She had been missing for almost 20 years. Officially, yes. What? What do you mean, officially? You've heard about it, haven't you? About the strong ties between the main family and the government? Now that you mention it, Bikini did say something to that effect. She said the Master Kron had great authority. Even without her official position, Misty Faye still wielded great influence. The police have been keeping an eye on her movements all this time. That's how I was able to contact her. Again, because of my position as a prosecutor. So my mother was cooperating with you? Don't ever forget. No matter how far away from you she is, she never stops thinking about you. She was always... That's why I knew she would do anything to protect you. If you want to know how strong her resolve to protect you was, look at her staff. Her staff? The one with the sword in it? The day the plan was to be carried out arrived soon enough. We met for the first time at Hazakura Temple. That's when your mother showed me her special staff. I realized it then, just how far she was willing to go. She was ready to use that sword to protect you from Morgan Faye, if necessary. Yes, even if it meant paying the ultimate price. Mother? Yeah, that's what I suspected. That night, the night of the crime, there was just one way to stop Morgan's evil plan. You mean Pearl's, don't you? We had to make sure she didn't channel Delilah Hawthorne. Well, Pearl, what are you going to do tonight? Well, if you'd like, you can come to my room. Perhaps we can read some books together. And then when Pearl didn't show up, we thought we could prevent her from playing her part in Morgan's plan, but she never showed up. She was worried and followed me to the inner temple. That was the thing we were most afraid of, and that's why Misty Faye had to do the channeling herself. She channeled Delilah Hawthorne into her own body. What? What do you mean? If she channeled a spirit first, then Pearls wouldn't be able to do it herself. As Master of Quran, Misty Faye's power was supreme. So that's how it went down. She channeled Delilah Hawthorne so that Pearl Faye wouldn't be able to. Ah. What? Is this true? My role in the plan was to make sure no one was going to hurt Maya Faye. That's why I hid myself at the inner temple, just in case you needed to be saved from Delilah Hawthorne. Godot. Anyway, that's all I'm going to admit to, Trite. Huh? There's no doubt about it. You're a great defense attorney. But you're going to have to do the rest yourself. The background leading up to this incident has been laid bare. There's just one question remaining, Mr. Wright. Who killed the victim? There are only two possible suspects right now. Maya Faye. And I'm sad to say, you, Mr. Godot. Well, Trite, if you're the real deal, then finish this thing once and for all. Show us beyond a shadow of the doubt that you can finish this on your own. No, Nick. Please don't. Maya, I heard the whole thing. From my sister in the medical office. That's why I have to protect Mr. Godot. I can't do it. I can't testify against him. After all, he's the man who put his life on the line to protect Mia. And me too. Maya, I know that. Nick? But even so, doesn't absolve him of his crime. Please, Maya, testify. Miss Faye, your testimony, please. This is the final testimony. Don't bother trying to hide anything, because I'll know. I want to hear the truth from your own lips. I understand. I'm sure you're right. I'm ready now, Nick. Alright, young lady. Tell us about the moments before you lost consciousness. What exactly happened at the time of the murder? I'm really hoping we don't have to cross-examine her. Just before it happened, I think I saw some red lights. 3 of them. Thought I asked for help, but just then I was splattered with blood. She wasn't dead though, and she struck back at the enemy behind her. Suddenly, the red lights went out and the whole area was dark. Just at that moment, there was a horrible scream. Right after that, Delilah collapsed and I lost consciousness. So the blood on the knife was Godot's, possibly. These red lights. Thought you said you don't remember seeing them. I'm sorry. I thought I saw them, but then they disappeared all of a sudden. Ha. Things break trite, even the best of theories. Who was it that stabbed Misty Faye? It looks like you still can't prove it. Maya's telling the truth this time. I know it. The rest is up to me. Can we have Godot lift up his shirt? Well then, Mr. Wright, proceed with your final cross-examination of the witness. I would like to see... from the testimony, this has to mean that the blood on the knife is Godot's. That a splatter of blood. Horrible scream. She struck at the enemy behind her. This is what I want to ask. Struck back. How do you know that? Well, you're right. I didn't see it exactly, but I could tell by the sounds of their breathing and movement. And also the smell of blood. You have witnessed more horror than any young lady should have in one life. So then, what did you do at that point? I couldn't move. I couldn't just barely make out their shadows moving in the dark, but I had no idea what to do. Could you still see the red light she mentioned earlier? Yes, I think so, but suddenly it went out. Let's see. Just then, there was a horrible scream. I want to ask about the scream. What do you mean by just at that moment? Do you mean the moment when the red lights went out? Yes, that's right. The scream that you heard then, was it Delilah Hawthorne? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it was a man's voice. What? What? I wonder if the lights go out whenever he closes his eyes or passes out. So then the scream came from the killer. That's gotta be it. I think Delilah Hawthorne must have taken the blade and attacked the killer with it. And then the killer let out a scream of pain, huh? After that, the killer stole the blade back and delivered the final blow, I guess. Well, Mr. Wright, seems to make sense to me. Sounds like a reasonable deduction, but I still kind of wonder. The bloody knife. I'm sorry to say this, but that interpretation would create an enormous contradiction. That makes sense. After all, my deductions are almost certainly never correct. Remember the testimony she gave before the killer let out a scream? Maya said she had already been splattered by the victim's blood. In other words, the blade and the staff had already been plunged into the victim. Is that right? She couldn't have struck back with a sword that was already stuck in her body. The weapon that caused the killer to let out a scream must have been something other than the staff. If you're so sure about that, then don't keep us waiting any longer, Trite. There's only one thing I can think of that could have been used as the weapon here. If Delilah Hawthorne had already been stabbed in the back by the staff, what could she have used to strike back at the killer? The knife. Naturally, the dagger the killer brought to the scene of the crime. Ah, that's right, I forgot about that. This dagger was found at the crime scene, stuck into a pine tree. Yes, the detective found that this morning and brought it to me. Delilah Hawthorne struck back at the killer with this, and she managed to wound him as well. Just because he let out a scream doesn't mean that he was wounded. Doth think she protests too much, Godot? For all we know, the blood on the dagger could have been from the victim. We just said it wasn't. Pay attention. Have you forgotten that the blood has already been tested? Since we learned it wasn't the victim's blood, it must be the killer's blood. The killer must have a wound somewhere on his body. So you're saying the blood on this dagger belongs to the killer? Exactly. A DNA analysis of the blood would prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. And yes, Mr. Godot, it would prove that it's your blood. I think he's had more than 17 cups of coffee. Nice theory, Trite. Order in the court. Is this the end? Have I done it? Even he won't be able to change the results of a scientific test. Oops, when I was carrying the blood through the courthouse, I accidentally stabbed myself. I could see Godot doing something like that. Ha. Let me ask you something, Trite. Let's just say that it turned out I was the killer. Do you really think I would be stupid enough to leave evidence like that? What? Just think for a second. This dagger was found this morning by a detective and brought to me. There was already blood on it, correct? But even so, I was the one who brought this dagger here to the courtroom. Yes? What does that prove? Well, if I really were the killer, I could have washed the blade off and then planted another person's blood on it. But it can't be. In any case, there's one thing I can guarantee, Trite. That blood, it doesn't belong to me. Not a chance. What? In any event, it seems to establish that the killer was wounded. Alright then, witness. Continue your testimony. But wait a minute. What's the problem? I know I probably shouldn't say this, but there's a big contradiction in Nick's explanation. Maya? This dagger, you said it wounded the killer? That's right, but Mr. Godot had really been cut with the dagger. His clothes should be bloody or have a rip in them, right? Maya? Maybe you just changed his clothes. That solved the contradiction pretty easily. What are you talking about? It's not that simple at all. Remember back to the day of the murder? Everyone was on the inner temple side got trapped there. Ah, that's right. And once the bridge was fixed, the police headed for the inner temple. Mr. Godot was already there waiting for them. He never had a chance to change his clothes. Order in the court. What, the witness? Oh, well, maybe he brought a change of clothes with him. But no one could have predicted the lightning strike that shut down the bridge. Why would anyone have brought a change of clothes? In case they did get dirty. Did Joe just take those smart pills during the last recess? Well then, maybe the killer took off his clothes before he committed the murder. That way he couldn't have any blood on them. That's impossible, Trite. You know how cold it gets up there late at night. After a few minutes with no clothes on, you'd be frozen solid. Ha. So that's all you've got. I knew you weren't tough enough to finish this. Right now, if Mia Fey were here, she'd have closed the book on this case already. If Mia Fey were here. So come on, Trite. Can you do it or not? How about it, Mr. Wright? You've accused Mr. Godot of being the killer, but can you prove it? Have you gotten even one piece of evidence? The question isn't whether I can prove it or not. The fact is, I have to prove it. That's the only choice I have. I was taught that it's one of the rules of being a lawyer. I can prove it. I'm going to bring your magnificent vengeance to fruition, just as you want it. Ha, that's good. A fighter to the bitter end, right? Since there's just one piece of evidence that can prove your point, I am about to save. Because I could easily mess this up. Since there's just one piece of evidence that can prove your point, why don't we go for the unlimited penalty? Are you trying to pressure me, Mr. Godot? Because it doesn't matter to me. I've got the one piece of evidence I need. Give me a break. You got nothing, right? So what do I do at a time like this? It's simple. I've got to think outside the box and approach this from a different angle. Alright then, Mr. Wright. Let's hear what you've got. There's one thing I demonstrated in the previous cross-examination. The killer was wounded. That was proven by the blood on the dagger. But we decided it was impossible for him to have hidden such a wound. If he had been cut by a dagger, there should have been a blood stain on his clothing. There's one place the killer could have hidden his wound. Behind his glasses. What did you say? The hidden. The light went out, so probably his thing broke. This is it. My last stand. I need to think about this from a different angle. I don't need to think about why there were no bloodstains on his clothing. I need to show how he hid the wound. It's the end of the line, the final stop, right? Let's hear what you've got. Where's the location where you say the killer hid his wound? I think it's the goggles. Would showing his face do that? I think it's behind his goggles, but I'm just not sure how to say that with the evidence. I think it's in his goggles. Ha. I don't know what you're talking about. Frankly, I don't need to know. What do I know is that you'll never be half the lawyer she was. Isn't that right, Trite? What was that just now? Mia? It can't be. You're living on, through him. Even as we speak, you're still hiding the wound. Oh, that was really nice. It's beneath your mask. During the fight, the red lights given off by the killer suddenly disappeared. Seconds later, the killer let out a scream. That's right, your mask went flying off your face. Mr. Godot, would you mind removing your mask? If you have a dagger wound under there somewhere, then I'd say this whole case is solved. Did his goggles just explode? Although I don't really believe that he really would have let Maya take the fall for it. That would have been weird. Just now, I saw her spirit in you. I never liked you. 6 years ago. You helped the woman who put me to sleep by hiding her bottle of poison. And then, while I was sleeping, you let Mia die. You really need to get over yourself, Godot. But you didn't care. You just kept living your pathetic, happy-go-lucky life. You even had the nerve to follow in her footsteps as a lawyer. Well, actually, I was a lawyer before she died, just to get it straight. I could never forgive you. That's what I thought. Mr. Godot? But I was wrong about you. I knew it from the very beginning. The truth is, the only person I could never find it in my heart to forgive was me. Well, you are a sexist piece of dirt. Yourself? I was the one that failed to protect Mia. Me and no one else. I tried to avert my eyes from the truth, to escape from the harshness of reality. I just couldn't face Mia's death head on, so I ran. I hid behind a mask. I threw away my true name. I couldn't even deal with being a defense attorney anymore, so I quit. But you saved Maya. Yeah, that was my plan. Up until just now, anyway. What do you mean? Are you listening, Maya? If I had really wanted to save you, then there's one person that I should have gone and talked to right away. But who would that be? Are you talking about Nick? But I didn't do it. I tried to get the help of Iris and your mother, but I closed my eyes to the most important man involved. Do you know why? The real reason? You were jealous? No, why? I suppose I wasn't really interested in saving you at all. Huh? I think I was just trying to salvage what's left of my own broken soul. I was trying to make up for the fact I couldn't save Mia. Nothing more. That's why I let you walk right into a situation that I knew was dangerous. Forgive me. You're wrong. You put your life on the line to save Maya. Was it really for Maya's sake? Even I'm not really sure. What do you mean by that? That night, in the darkness of the garden, when I saw her silhouette. A part of me just must have known the truth. The truth that it wasn't really Delilah Hawthorne standing there in front of me. It could have been Misty Faye, or even that little girl. But I still picked up the blade. It was like I was dreaming. I'm not sure exactly what was going on in my mind at that point. Was I really motivated by the pure desire to protect Maya Faye? Or was it something else? Was it my hatred for a woman who had stolen everything from me 6 years earlier? Could have been simply a desire for revenge. And now, I don't know anything anymore. I did learn something today, however. Finally realized that I was the arrogant one. I was just chasing an illusion, a fantasy. The stupid fantasy of defeating you in the courtroom. You were the one who made me realize my folly. You never ran away from Mia's death. Instead, you picked up where she left off, as a true defender of the people. In that one moment, I understood everything. Mr. Godot. I think you've already know this, but if you don't, my name is Diego Armando. Mr. Armando, I believe in you. I know you were trying to save me. Thanks. Your wound, it's bleeding. Ha, did you forget already? In my world, the color red doesn't exist. These must be my tears. Tears? Ever since I woke up from my coma, I think I've been waiting for this very moment. Mr. Armando? You do well to remember this, Maya. The only time a lawyer can cry is when it's all over. And it's all over. That's so cute. Great. This time, it really is all over, isn't it? Defendant? Yes, Your Honor. Although you weren't directly involved in the murder, tampering with the body and crime scene in itself is a serious offense. I understand, Your Honor. Mr. Armando explained that to me very carefully. I knew the risk and I was willingly cooperated anyway. Very well. Before I hand down my verdict, is there anything you'd like to say? Well, there is one thing. I'd like to say something to Mr. Wright. I want to apologize to you. Apologize? To me? For what? For the case 5 years ago, of course. But you didn't do that. I just remembered. Weren't you poisoned by your own lover? Not exactly, but yeah, something like that. Even now, 5 years later, I can hardly believe it. She was going to do it. She was planning to kill me. It's not all that surprising. The two of you hardly knew each other. Huh? What do you mean? You and my sister, you only met twice. Huh? You only met twice? The first time you met was on that fateful day. The day she poisoned Mr. Armando in the cafeteria of this very courthouse. The next time you met her was 8 months later. You met her again on the day that she stole your cold medicine. And Doug Swallow was killed. No way. It just can't be true. I mean, during our whole relationship, we were... For those 8 months, the woman that you thought was Delilah Hawthorne wasn't actually my sister. Huh? It wasn't Delilah. I hope one day you can forgive me. Feeny. Aw. You mean... That's right. I lied to you. For 8 months. Then how did you fake your hair color? But why? Why would you do such a thing? Ever since she gave you the bottle that day, my sister was trying to get back as soon as she possibly could. Because of the police investigation and their surveillance, she couldn't move about freely. So that's why you... My sister, from the beginning, she was prepared for the worst. Prepared for the worst? She thought that you might somehow discover the truth. That's why she was always ready to deal with you at a moment's notice. You mean she was ready to kill me, don't you? She already had so much to answer for. I didn't want any more sins on her soul. I begged her not to do it, and she agreed to give me a chance. And that's why you came to me. You came to get the bottle pendant back for me in her place. But I couldn't get you to give it back. I failed at something even as simple as that. 8 months passed and I still couldn't get it back from you. Finally, my sister couldn't wait any longer. She didn't consult me about her plans for you that day. It was the first time that it had ever happened. That was a bit strange, wasn't it? Up until that day, you two were partners in crime, and she would confer with you. I think she must have noticed. Noticed what? My feelings for you. If I had found out she was planning to kill you, I would have done whatever it was necessary to stop her. Even if it meant her life. Or mine. Iris. After spending those 8 months by your side, my feelings toward you, they changed. I have something to say to you too. Yes? You really are the person I always thought you were. Even after Delilah Hawthorne was found guilty, I still believed in you. Oh, this is really cute. Thank you. You're still going to jail, though. Just know that. How many cups of darkness have I drank over the years? I don't even know. I'll tell you, though. Right now, this one here is the greatest cup I think I've ever had. Because it sure lasts for a while. Don't you think so, Phoenix Wright? Yeah, I think you're right. Oh, it's because the greatest coffee cup were the friends we made along the way. So cute. The purpose of this trial was to rule on the murder of the victim, Lise Dunham. At some point, I expect you will be tried for your role as an accomplice in this case. I understand, Your Honor. Very well. On the charge of murder, I hereby find the defendant not guilty. Okay, that was beautiful. Court is now adjourned. So I guess it's all over. The way everything ended, was justice really served? The man who risked his life to save Maya is being sent to prison by my own hand. Of course, justice was served. Oh, she's stuck in pearls. Mia? I'm proud of you, Phoenix. Your defense was truly brilliant. But I couldn't save Mr. Armando, the man who cared so deeply for you. You're wrong, Phoenix. You did save Diego from himself. You saved him in the only way possible. You mean, with that verdict? I think one day you'll understand too. Phoenix, I want you to remember one thing. You were as good out there today as any defense attorney could ever hope to be. There's nothing more you can learn from me. Mia, you've accomplished something I wasn't able to. I owe you a great deal. Thank you. Mia, I'm sure we'll meet again, someday, Phoenix. No. I've handled lots of cases and seen a lot of things. And along this journey, I've found myself asking just one question. What does it really mean to defend someone? I suppose today's case is produced by one possible answer. Nick. Maya. I guess it's just like my sis said. Mia? What did she say? That night, when I channeled Mita to get her advice on what to do, this is what she wrote back in my notebook. Don't worry, Phoenix will save everyone in the end. But, come on, cut it out with that gloomy face. Can't you see? Me, sis, and I'm sure Iris too. We owe you for everything you have done for us, Nick. Maya, how can you be so bright and chipper after all that's happened? You were brutally attacked. You even saw your mother murdered. Youch. Francisca. Still as softy as always, Phoenix Wright. Excellent work, Wright. Huh? Mr. Edgeworth? When did you get back? Oh, that's right. I guess no one filled her in on that. Edgeworth and Francisca have actually been helping me. Helping you? If these two hadn't been here on the first day of the trial, the defense wouldn't have gotten anywhere. Wow. But where were you, Nick? I heard he fell into a river and caught a nasty cold, which forced him to sleep all day. Yes, he laid in bed shivering from his fever with Iris's hood pulled over his head. Oh, ouch. Talk about embarrassing, Nick. You definitely need more training. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Edgeworth. And you too. Francisca. I don't suppose... Is this Larry? Ugh. There's room for me in this group hug, is there? Oh, Larry. What's with the, longer than usual face? I realized something when I was reborn. I realized that Larry was never of any use to anyone. Not even once. That's not true. Right, Nick? What? You're asking me. Well, Nick, is that true? I've got a place in this world, right? Huh? Oh, yeah, of course. I knew it. Everyone would be better off if I were gone for good. No. Oh yeah. Those portraits you painted, they were really good. Isn't that right, Edgeworth? What? Me? Why are you making that face, huh, Edgy? Oh, well, yes, indeed. I certainly can't say that they lack resemblance. Do you really mean it? What about you, Frenzy? Did I draw you well, too? Well, my beauty can't possibly be captured by a mere crayon. Go off, girl. Nevertheless, I recognize the effort you put into it, and that's worth something. And then you'll do it, like you promised. You're going to model for my next picture book, Fransky's Whippity-Whip trip? Don't get carried away. Well, how about that? I guess painting portraits is the only thing I'm good at. The painting of Pearl was pretty darn good too, if you ask me. Huh? Now that you mention it, I haven't seen her around. Pearls? Where could she have gone? Normally she would have made a beeline for Maya. Oh, I'll look for her. Be right back. Did someone fall? Hey, Pearly. Right. You seem to be uncharacteristically puzzled. I suspect you were wondering how Maya can be so cheerful despite all that has happened. Yeah. To be honest, I can't understand it either. Francisco. That's right. She lost her father recently, fairly recently as well. I think I understand how she feels. Maya's a much wiser person than she appears, and I think she realizes something. Now is exactly the time when she needs to be as strong as she can. What do you mean by now is exactly the time? Maya wasn't the only one that was badly wounded by this incident. In fact, there was someone that was hurt far more deeply than she. I believe it's for that person that Maya is trying to do her best not to cry. Someone who was hurt more deeply than Maya? Pearl. Edgeworth, I think I'm starting to understand now. Ow! Then tell me, Phoenix Wright, who is Maya Fey being strong for? I think she's being strong for Pearl. Pearl Fey. The poor kid, after all, the reason that she worked so hard to follow the instructions was because she loved and believed in her mother, Morgan. It's for the good of the Fey clan. I'm sure she believed in every last word. She thought she was doing it for Maya. That's why she was so happy. It shows how truly devoted she is to Maya. But it's a cruel irony that it was her exuberance that led to this tragedy. Maya Fey's mother was killed, and Maya herself was pulled into the deepest peril imaginable. And that's exactly why Maya's putting on a brave face. She's doing it for Pearl's sake, until she can see her smile again. Oh hey, so this is where you all were. Wow, looks like we've got quite a bunch here today. Youch. What was that for, sir? Sorry about that, Scruffy. My whip just seems to have a mind of its own. What's up, Detective Gumshoe? Oh, you know, this and that. Anyway, congrats on your win. Let's go out tonight, pal. Dinner's on me. My salary just sort of kind of gone by a teeny-weeny bit, but it's alright. I made reservations at a first-class French restaurant tonight. Please do not tell me it's Tresbian, because that food's nasty. Ah. Pretty good work, Scruffy. That whip was your reward. Detective Gumshoe. You said a first-class French restaurant? You don't mean Tresbian. Where else? I knew it. We're doomed. Come on, let's go, everyone. Can't keep Maggie waiting, pal. Hey, you, crybaby. You're invited, too. Oh. Forget about me. Pearl and I will be at the loser shack eating potatoes. You know, Maya's taking an awfully long time to get back. She's still out looking for pearls. Oh, Maya? What's wrong? Nick, what do I do? Pearly, I can't find her anywhere. Huh? I'll bet she just went back home. That's all. I thought so too, so I called the village, but no one has heard from her. This has never happened before. As I figured, she has been badly hurt by this incident. She feels responsible for the tragedy that has befallen you, Maya. But none of this was her fault. What should I do? Detective Gumshoe. Yeah, what is it, pal? Could you guys go on ahead? But what about you? Maya and I we'll join you guys once we find pearls. Nick, don't worry about us, Detective Gumshoe. We may be a little late, but we'll definitely be there. We have a lot of celebrating to do tonight, and I wouldn't miss it for the world. Yeah, but you're the... Ah. Very well, Phoenix Wright. We'll go on ahead. Don't keep us waiting, right? We won't. But where should we look? Where could Pearlie have gone? Let's go, Maya. There's only one place I can think of that Pearls might have gone to. Your office? Oh, the temple. Azakura Temple. For Pearls, I bet this is a very important place. After all, it's where this whole incident started. What's this? You're all back again so soon? Sister Bikini. I thought we'd be eating mashed potatoes alone tonight. So she's here? Pearlie is here? She's in the training hall. Why don't you hurry along and go see her? Okay. The poster's been wiped. Pearlie's not here. Ah, Maya, the hanging scroll. Yeah, it's clean again. Someone cleaned it off. It's got to be Pearls. Ah, Mystic Maya. But Pearlie? Why? Why did you just leave like that? Mystic Maya. Oh, poor Pearls. I swore that I would never trouble the two of you ever again, because it's all my fault that Mystic Maya's mother. That's why you came here. It's the least I could do to pray for your happiness. You don't have to do that, Pearlie. It wasn't your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Of course I'm sad that my mother is gone, but how do I say this? I'm still happy. You don't have to lie just to make me feel better. No, really. It's true. The only reason I'm still here is all thanks to everyone who was there for me. My sis, my mother, Mr. Armando, Nick, and you. If even one of you weren't there, I'm sure I wouldn't still be alive right now. That's why I have to be strong. For all the people that were there for me when I needed them. That's all I can really do. Mystic Maya. I'm impressed. You truly are the daughter of Mystic Misty. Sister Bikini. Your mother, Mystic Misty, was a strong woman indeed. I want to tell you what she said to me that night. After dishonoring the good name of Quran, I don't have the right to face my daughter. But still, Maya's always in my thoughts. It's true. She'll always be with me, until the day I die. Sadly, it was that night. Your spirit was with her. That's why your mother was so strong. Even at the end, I'm sure she had no regrets. She'll always be with me, until the day I die, huh? There's a rule or something all masters are to follow, isn't there? To never take the charm off until the day you die. That's the master's talisman. The thing that Misty kept by her heart and would never take off. It wasn't the container that was important. Rather, it was the contents. That's a photo. Ah. Mother? What's it a photo of? It's only natural for living creatures to fight to protect their own lives. But what makes us human is that we fight for others. But who do you fight for? How hard must you fight? That's the true measure of what human life is worth. We defense attorneys are warriors who are constantly challenged by that question. Oh, did Maya break the Ami container and then Mia fixed it? Oh my gosh. Even when the battle is over and the bonds that connect us are severed, we always return, time and time again. Mia, Maya, Pearls, Mr. Armando, and Maya's mother too. I learned that from all of them. That bottle does nothing but break, it seems. Well, shall we get going? Everyone is waiting. Ah? This is a day to remember, a day when a lot of things are finally put to rest. I think we should celebrate what we've overcome today. But I still can't. Oh, go on, sweetie. You can come back for training anytime. Okay. Alright, I'm going to make a brand new start too. Sister Bikini, I'll be back for some more training, I promise. I know, and I won't go easy on you just because you're the future master. I'll make sure to prepare reservations for 3 when you come back. Oh, that's cute. Alright, we're going to have a great feast today, Pearly. You know why? Because training is a battle of endurance. Okay, Mystic Maya, I'll eat lots of food tonight. You know, there's one thing I don't get, and probably don't want to, but what is it, Nick? Reservations for training is fine and all, but why for 3? Come on, what do you think? You're one of us, Nick. Next time you can train right alongside us. Huh? I'll be waiting for you. Sister Bikini will take special care of you. Huh? Huh? It'll be great, Nick. We're going to do the special course naturally. Huh? 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 That's a great idea. After all, Mr. Nick, you'd do anything for Mystic Maya, wouldn't you? Even walk on hot coals, right? We'll have a nice big meal right before we come next time. Right, Nick? You know, I was wondering if I can just say one little thing. Sure, of course you can. Oh, I love this part. I can't wait to hear it. I'm getting goosebumps too. Well then, here goes nothing. That was adorable. Oh my gosh, we're at the end of the entire trilogy, actually. I'll really have to work extra hard now. Master Karan and the office manager of Wright & Co. offices, and I have to be a good big sister to Pearly and Nick. Well, as long as I'm not locked up or captured or something like that. So, I'm actually really happy my friend pretty much ordered me to play this game eventually. I absolutely loved it. So it's true. Mr. Nick really is Mystic Maya's knight in shining armor. He went through with the special course, all the way to the end. Actually, I heard there's a legendary ultra special ultra course here too. I think I'll surprise the 2 of them by making them a secret reservation. I love pearls. But yeah, it's like there was like some puzzles here and there where it's like I wasn't too sure like what I was supposed to do or what. Maggie's the manager. I feel 10 years younger. I'll never take it off. Yes, but somehow you just don't seem the same. I guess a dirty, shabby old overcoat is more detective-like, sir. Don't worry about it. In the name of love, a man soil himself silly. That's adorable. But yeah, I love the puzzles, the twists and turns. I think some things could have been more clear or more lenient with some of the ways it was done. Mr. Wright, I am once again in your debt. Thanks to you, the Treasures of Kron exhibit was a great success. You even got to see Miss Von Karma, who I haven't seen for almost a year. She taught me how to use a whip and said that I must show you what I've learned. Oh lord. Francisca is getting everywhere. Yeah, I think some things could have been more lenient, but overall the story was well done. Desi and I started a company called Master Mass Consulting. We're dedicated to stopping evil plans of the criminals in the city. Our motto is cut it out, please. Pretty cute, huh? Well, we also sell plans to criminals as kind of a side business. I wonder if that's okay. Sometimes I think maybe we're the worst criminals. Yeah, I love the story. I love the characterizations of the characters. They became very much lovable and fully fleshed out. I wanted to show my appreciation to Mr. Wright for exterminating Don Tigre, so I lent him $500,000 and a tea set, a special thick sea, one I mixed with my own 2 hands. I bet he's drinking it now. Win through compromise. He. That's really creepy. But yeah, the characters are all lovable. Story is amazing. I'm just old and in the way. A wrinkly, grumpy clown nose waste of flesh. At least that's what I thought. But my grandkids had a birthday party for me the other day. Talk about embarrassing. 69 years old and I cry like a baby with a dirty diaper. This is kind of like the where are they now segments at the end of like some documentaries. As usual, we have an abundance of work to do. We've hired a new programmer to place Glen Egg. I hope everyone will get along. His name is Adam Mata. As soon as I heard his name, I knew our brain circuits would align perfectly. Can't even think of what else to say other than I wish I played this sooner. I'll probably like go through everything again to get all the achievements. My, more reporters? Since the murder, we've made so much money, I hardly know what to do. I think the magazines like us because I provide such a nice visual, especially in spring. I can hardly wait for Iris to come back. Yeah, I'll probably play this again to get through all the achievements because I am that type of person who wants to get all the achievements. And I imagine there's like special story things that come along with it as well. You've turned into such a respectable man, Feeney. It was so sweet of you and everyone else to come and visit me here the other day. Of course I was happy that you constantly had your eyes on me, but I felt kind of bad when the little one slapped you so hard you got a nosebleed. Oh my gosh, Pearl needs to understand. She's trying to get her arrested. Him arrested. Ben Grom Judd. Yeah, there's so few voices. I forget there should be voice actors. That's actually kind of confusing. I really do like her objection. That was really nice. Now it's Francisco's objection. I don't care about him. I want to hear Francisca's. Yeah, hers sounded a lot like Mia's. I could barely tell the difference. Oh, it's this dude, who we all hate, who somehow still has a job even though he loses every case. Oh, it's Robot Lady. What's this? I'm back from a long and tiring vacation and no one is here to greet me? Guess while I was gone, my whippersnapper buddy quit and now I got no one. And what kind of lonely, crazy security room is this supposed to be anyway? With all the flashing lights and switches, I feel like some sort of space alien. And now what I'm going to do with all these macadamia nuts, if I bring them over to Edgypoo, I know instantly I can't accept these, I'm afraid. Oh. When will I ever find a gentleman who rat-a-tat-tat? Still will have no clue what she says ever. Unless I slow it down, which I am not doing. I finally found something I love to do. Francisco's whip-de-whip trip is going to turn art world on its head. Should have realized it sooner. Self-centered, lazy, antisocial. I'm an artist, a really good portrait artist. I'm not a loser after all. You're still kind of a loser, Larry. Don't worry. Aw, it's everyone together. Larry is a really good artist. This is too cute. Ah, why does it keep getting cuter? I can't handle this much cute. Oh my gosh, that was such a good game. I loved it. Oh, I got the "a lawyer only cries once is all over." Yeah, I feel like I'm about to cry. Oh my gosh. I loved that, and I will be putting this game up as soon as possible, like this video up as soon as possible. Sorry for the delay, and oh my gosh, that was just amazing. But we'll have to find something else to play next time. I'll try and find a really good story. But I will see you guys next time. Bye!